I stood on my own porch, with key in my hand, staring at the lock that refused to turn. 2 weeks. I had been gone to help my sister care for her newborn twins in Portland. Now my key didn't work. Through the living room window, I could see Chloe, my daughter-in-law, sitting on my late husband's favorite armchair. She was sipping wine, scrolling through her phone. I knocked on the window. She looked up, made eye contact, and turned away. My heart pounded as I knocked harder on the front door. Finally, footsteps. The door opened a crack, and Mark, my son, stood there. His face was pale, eyes bloodshot. He wouldn't look at me directly. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "But you can't live here anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. I clutched my suitcase handle tighter, my knuckles white. This was the house my husband Thomas and I had bought 30 years ago. The house where we raised Mark. The house Thomas died in just 3 years ago. "What are you talking about?" I managed to say. Mark glanced behind him nervously.
"Chloe and I, we need space. To start our family."
"You understand, right?" I didn't understand. Nothing made sense. The Riverside Motel smelled like stale cigarette smoke and cleaning chemicals. I sat on the scratchy bedspread, hands shaking as I logged into my bank account on my phone. Maybe I could stay at a nicer hotel while I figured this out. The screen loaded slowly. When the balance appeared, my stomach dropped. $847. 2 weeks ago, I had $23,000 in savings. $23,000 I had carefully saved from my pension and Thomas's life insurance. I scrolled frantically through recent transactions. There it was. A withdrawal for $22,000. The description read, "Interior design consultant, Chloe Evans." My own daughter-in-law had drained my account. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark appeared. "Please understand, Mom. We need space to start our family. This is what's best for everyone. Chloe says you'll adjust." I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper. My son was choosing this woman over his own mother. The woman who had given birth to him, who had sat by his bedside through pneumonia when he was 7, who had worked double shifts as a nurse to pay for his college. I lay back on the rough pillow and stared at the water-stained ceiling. How had this happened? The legal aid office was in a rundown strip mall between a pawn shop and a check-cashing place. The lawyer, Miss Patricia Walsh, was younger than I expected. She listened to my story, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she set down her pen and gave me a look that made my chest tighten. "Mrs. Henderson, I need to ask you something important. Is your son's name on the deed to the house?" "Yes," I admitted. "I added him 5 years ago. My financial advisor said it would avoid probate issues when I pass away. Make things easier." Patricia closed her eyes briefly. "I'm very sorry to tell you this, but legally, that house is as much his as it is yours. You can't evict him. And if he wants you out, there's not much we can do." The room felt like it was spinning. But I paid for that house. My husband and I owned it for 30 years before Mark was even born. "I understand, and I'm truly sorry. But the deed is what matters legally. You gave him equal ownership." I had walked into her office hoping for solutions. I left with the crushing realization that my own kindness had trapped me. The public library became my refuge. Free Wi-Fi, warm, and nobody asked questions. I was scrolling through Facebook on one of their computers when I saw it. Chloe's post from that morning had over 200 likes. So blessed to finally have a space that feels entirely ours. Can't wait to fill it with love and laughter. #new beginnings, #our home sweet home, #blessed. The photos showed my living room completely transformed. The floral wallpaper Thomas and I had hung together was gone, replaced by stark gray paint. My collection of family photos had been removed from the mantel. In their place sat modern sculptures I didn't recognize. The comments were worse than the post. "You guys deserve this so much," wrote her friend Amber. "Finally getting that fresh start. So happy for you," from someone named Kyle. Then I saw comments from my own sisters. Helen wrote, "Gorgeous, Chloe. You have such amazing taste." My younger sister Dana added, "This looks incredible. You've really made it your own." They didn't know. They thought this was a normal renovation. They had no idea their sister was homeless, sleeping in a motel. I logged out quickly before anyone saw me crying in the library. Mark texted me to meet him in the parking lot of a grocery store. Neutral ground, he called it. When I arrived, he was leaning against his car, holding a single cardboard box. He couldn't meet my eyes as he handed it to me. "Here are some of your things," he mumbled. I opened the box. Photo albums were thrown in haphazardly, their spines bent. My mother's pearl necklace was tangled with random kitchen utensils. At the bottom, wrapped carelessly in newspaper, was Thomas's watch. The Omega Seamaster he had saved 6 months to buy for our 20th anniversary. The watch he wore every single day until cancer took him. "Why is this in here?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Mark shifted uncomfortably. "Chloe said it looked too dated. She's redecorating everything. We're going for a more modern aesthetic." "Your father's watch." She called it dated.
Mom, please.
"Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I clutched the box to my chest. "Harder than it needs to be? Mark, I'm living in a motel. I have $800 to my name. Your wife stole my savings." "She didn't steal anything. She paid herself for design consultations. It's completely legal." He finally looked at me then, and I saw something that broke my heart more than anything else. He believed what he was saying. The message came from an unknown number late that night. I almost deleted it as spam. "Mrs. Henderson, you don't know me, but I'm one of Chloe's friends. Actually, I was one of her friends. I can't stay silent anymore about what she's doing to you. Please call me when you can. This is important." I called immediately. The woman on the other end sounded young, nervous. "My name is Ashley. I met Chloe through a Facebook group. I thought it was just about home decorating and marriage advice. But it's not. It's called Securing Your Assets, and it's basically a forum where women share strategies for taking control of property and money in relationships." "I don't understand," I said, though dread was already building in my stomach. "Chloe has been posting about you for months. She called you the obstacle and the house the asset. She's been planning this since before they even got married. She talked about how she needed to phase out the dead weight before starting her real life. Mrs. Henderson, she's been targeting your house from the beginning." My hands went numb. "Do you have proof?" "Screenshots. Lots of them. I'll send them now." Within minutes, my phone started buzzing with images. Post after post from Chloe, detailing her plan, asking for advice on manipulating Mark, celebrating small victories. The old lady finally added Mark to the deed. One post read, "Phase 1 complete." I barely slept that night. At 8 a.m., I was at the bank the moment they opened. I needed to access my safety deposit box, something I hadn't touched since Thomas died. The bank employee led me to the vault. Inside the small metal box, I found exactly what I was looking for. A manila folder labeled Mark, House Documents, in Thomas's careful handwriting. Inside was a notarized loan agreement. I had completely forgotten about it. When Mark and Chloe got engaged, they were struggling with money. They wanted a big wedding, a honeymoon in Hawaii. We offered them $30,000 as a loan for the down payment they claimed to need for their first home. Thomas, always meticulous about paperwork, had drawn up a proper agreement. It stated clearly that the money was a loan, to be repaid when they sold any property or upon mutual agreement. Mark had signed it. The document was notarized and legally binding. I held the paper with shaking hands. This changed everything. This was proof that they owed me money. Substantial money. I made copies immediately and placed the original back in the safety deposit box. For the first time since finding myself locked out, I felt a small flicker of hope. My phone rang while I was eating a gas station sandwich for dinner. Mrs. Gable, my neighbor of 25 years. "Catherine, I don't know if you want to hear this, but I think you should know. There was a moving truck at your house today. I watched them load up your dining room set. The cherrywood one you were always so proud of." The sandwich turned to dust in my mouth. That dining set had belonged to Thomas's grandmother. It was an antique, worth at least $15,000. We had promised to pass it down to Mark. "Did you see who authorized it?" I asked. "Chloe was directing everything. She was laughing with the movers, said something about finally getting rid of the old people furniture. Catherine, I took pictures. Lots of them. Time-stamped. I have photos of them loading up your china cabinet too, and those oil paintings from your hallway. Can you send them to me? Already done. Catherine, what's happening? Where are you? I couldn't answer. I was too busy calculating the value of what had just been stolen from my home. My phone buzzed with incoming photos. Clear images of my possessions being loaded into a truck, Chloe smiling in the background. Evidence. I was collecting evidence. The call came from a name I hadn't heard in 5 years. Benjamin Porter, a former colleague from my nursing days, now a successful property developer in Seattle. Catherine, I heard through the grapevine that you've left your position at the hospital. I know timing might be strange, but I've got a situation. I'm developing a medical office complex, but it's become a nightmare. Contractors fighting, permits delayed, budget overruns. I need someone with medical facility experience and the spine to knock heads together. 3-month contract, $8,000 a month, plus expenses. Interested. $24,000. It was more than I had made in half a year at the hospital. When do I start? Tomorrow, if you can. I'll email the contract within the hour. I hung up and immediately called Patricia, my legal aid lawyer. I just got a job. Good money. Can we move forward with legal action now? Her voice brightened. With income, yes. We can do much more. Let me start drafting some documents. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't helpless anymore. I used my first paycheck to hire a private investigator. His name was Frank Cooper, a retired police detective who came highly recommended. I gave him everything. The screenshots from Ashley, the photos from Mrs. Gable, the bank statements showing Chloe's withdrawal. I'll start digging, he said. People like this always have more secrets. 1 week later, Frank sat across from me at a coffee shop with a thick folder. Your daughter-in-law is busy, he said, sliding documents across the table. She's been systematically moving money from Mark's accounts into a private account at a different bank. Just in her name. Over the past 8 months, she's transferred nearly $45,000. But Mark would see that on his statements. She's smart. Small amounts, irregular timing, different descriptions. Household expenses, grocery money, car maintenance. Unless you're looking carefully, it seems normal. But I tracked it all. Every penny goes to her private account. Why would she need secret money if she's already taken the house? Frank's expression darkened. That's the question, isn't it? People don't hide money unless they're planning an exit. I'd bet anything she's getting ready to disappear with a nice pile of cash. He wasn't done. He pulled out bank records, credit card statements, more screenshots. There's more. A lot more. But I wanted to show you this first. I waited outside Mark's office building until lunch hour. When he emerged, I stepped in front of him. He looked terrible. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes. Mom, I can't talk right now. Yes, you can. We're going to talk right now. I pulled him to a bench in the small plaza. I showed him the loan agreement from Thomas. I showed him Frank's report about the secret bank account. I watched the color drain from his face as he read. She said that money was for household emergencies, he whispered. There's no emergency fund, Mark. She's been stealing from you systematically. His hands started shaking. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. She said if I didn't support her decisions about the house, she would leave me. She said she would take everything and I'd end up with nothing. Mom, I was scared. I thought if I just did what she wanted, everything would be okay. I thought you would understand eventually. She's manipulated you. This whole time. He broke down completely then, sobbing into his hands. My son, my 32-year-old son, crying like a child. I'm so sorry. Dad would be ashamed of me. I'm ashamed of me. Then help me fix this. He nodded, wiping his eyes. Tell me what to do. Chloe's Facebook announcement appeared 3 days later. A professional-looking photo of her in a flowing dress, hand on her stomach, Mark beside her looking strained. We're expecting baby Henderson coming this December. Feeling so blessed and grateful for this new chapter. Hashtag baby on board, hashtag family growing, hashtag blessed. The comments flooded in. Hundreds of congratulations. My sisters both commented with heart emojis. My stomach twisted. Despite everything, part of me wanted it to be true. A grandchild. But something felt wrong. I called Frank immediately. Can you look into medical records? Not legally. But I can look at other things. Give me a few days. Those few days felt like years. Then Frank called. Your instincts were right. I found an Amazon order. Silicone pregnancy belly, $89.99. Shipped to your address 2 weeks ago. I also found she downloaded a pregnancy progression photo package from a stock photo website. Professional pictures of a pregnant woman's body, month by month. Mrs. Henderson, she's not pregnant. I felt sick. She's faking a pregnancy? For sympathy, leverage, or both. Maybe she thinks it'll make Mark more pliable. Or maybe it's insurance in case things go wrong. How could anyone be so cruel? But I already knew the answer. Chloe wasn't just greedy. She was calculated and completely without conscience. Frank's next report came with photographs. Chloe meeting a man in an expensive suit at a downtown restaurant. The photos were clear, time-stamped, multiple angles. That's Gerald Vance. He's a real estate agent who specializes in quick sales. Based on what I overheard, they're discussing listing your house. She wants to know how fast they can sell it and what price they can get. She can't sell it without Mark's signature.
She's working on that.
I heard her telling Vance that Mark will sign whatever she puts in front of him. She's planning to tell him they need to downsize before the baby comes. That they'll buy something smaller and bank the difference. But there is no baby.
Exactly.
She sells the house, gets several $100,000, splits it with Mark legally, then divorces him and disappears with her half plus everything she's already hidden. The plan was perfect. Evil but perfect. By the time anyone realized what happened, she would be gone with hundreds of thousands of dollars, leaving Mark with nothing but debt and betrayal. I need more evidence, I said. Everything you can get. Frank smiled grimly. Already on it. Patricia filed the paperwork on a Friday morning. 2 separate legal actions, delivered simultaneously to my house by a professional process server. The first was a formal demand for immediate repayment of the $30,000 loan, with interest totaling $37,000. The second was a civil lawsuit for theft, fraud, and elder financial abuse, totaling $87,000 in stolen savings, sold property, and damages. The lawsuit included witness statements from Mrs. Gable, bank records, and screenshots from the Securing Your Assets forum. Patricia had written a masterpiece of legal intimidation. Every claim was backed by solid evidence. Every demand was justified and documented. The process server reported that Chloe had turned white when she read the papers. Mark had looked relieved. This is going to get very ugly, Patricia warned me. Be prepared for retaliation. I'm ready. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Every piece of evidence organized. Every claim documented. Every witness statement notarized. Chloe had spent months planning to destroy me. I had spent weeks planning to destroy her plans. The difference was, I had truth on my side. The call came at 11 p.m. Chloe's voice was shaking with rage. How dare you? How dare you sue us? That's Mark's house. He has every right to it. Is that so? And did he have the right to lock his mother out without warning? Did you have the right to steal my life savings? I didn't steal anything. I earned that money for design consultations. Really? Show me the contract. Show me the invoices. Show me any proof that I agreed to pay you $22,000. Silence. Then her voice changed, became low and venomous. You're a pathetic old woman clinging to a dead man's house. Thomas is gone.
Mark is mine now.
That house is mine. You should have just accepted it and moved into some retirement home where you belong. I had started recording the moment she called. Tell me more about what you think of Thomas. He was a weak man who died and left you nothing but debt and memories. Marcus, nothing like him, thank God. Thomas couldn't provide for anyone. I let her rant. She talked about Thomas being worthless. She talked about how I was the obstacle she always knew she'd have to remove. She talked about her plans to sell the house. She admitted to taking my savings, justified it as compensation for dealing with you. 10 minutes of pure venom, all recorded. When she finally hung up, I saved the file to 3 different locations. Mark showed up at my motel room at midnight. I heard the soft knock and looked through the peephole. He stood there in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, looking destroyed. "Can we talk?" I let him in. He sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. I heard it. The recording. Chloe doesn't know I set up a call recording app on our shared tablet last week. I heard everything she said to you. About Dad. His voice broke on the last word. She called him weak. She said he was worthless. Mom, she's been saying terrible things about him for months, and I didn't stop her. I let her disrespect him. Mark, you were being manipulated. That's not an excuse.
Dad taught me to stand up for what's right, to protect family.
I failed him. I failed you. He looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. Tell me how to fix this. Please. I'll do anything. I need access to your shared computer. I need you to help me find everything Chloe has been hiding. He nodded immediately. Tomorrow. She has a hair appointment at 10. We'll have 2 hours. My son was finally on my side again. Mark let me into the house, through the garage. Walking through my own home felt surreal. Everything was different.
Cold.
Modern. Empty of life. We went straight to the office. Mark logged into their shared desktop computer while I pulled out a flash drive. She doesn't know I have administrator access, he said quietly. I can see everything. What we found was worse than I imagined. A folder labeled Project Independence contained everything. Years of posts in the Securing Your Assets forum, detailing her entire plan. Financial spreadsheets showing every penny she had moved to her secret account. Email exchanges with Gerald Vance about listing the house. Draft divorce papers she had already prepared. Screenshots of properties she was looking at in Florida. A detailed timeline for her exit strategy. Sell the house in June, divorce in July, move to Miami in August. There was even a receipt for the fake pregnancy belly, along with a document titled Pregnancy Plan, outlining how she would maintain the lie for 6 months before claiming a miscarriage. Mark sat frozen, watching it all download to my flash drive. She never loved me, he whispered. This was always about the house. I didn't have an answer for that. In the back of their file cabinet, Mark found something that made him go completely pale. A draft prenuptial agreement, dated 3 weeks before their wedding. His own lawyer had prepared it, recommending protection of the house and Thomas's life insurance money. Mark had never seen it. The email chain showed Chloe had intercepted the emails by adding his account to her phone. She had responded to the lawyer, pretending to be Mark, saying he had changed his mind about the prenup. She had convinced Mark that prenup showed a lack of trust and that people who truly loved each other didn't need legal protection. She blocked the only thing that would have protected me, Mark said, holding the papers with shaking hands. She isolated me from legal protection before we even got married. This was premeditation on a level I hadn't imagined. Chloe hadn't just married Mark for the house. She had systematically removed every obstacle, every protection, every safeguard. She had been playing a long game, and she had nearly won. We have everything now, I said. Every piece of her plan, documented in her own words. Mark looked at me. What do we do next? We set a trap. Mark's bonus email came from his company's HR department on Tuesday. It looked completely legitimate because it was legitimate. Benjamin, my new employer, had called in a favor with Mark's boss. They issued Mark a genuine $15,000 bonus for excellent performance, deposited directly into the joint account he shared with Chloe. Mark showed Chloe the email at dinner. I heard about it later. This is amazing, she had said, kissing him. We should put this toward the baby's nursery. Whatever you think is best, Mark had replied. Frank watched their bank accounts like a hawk. 43 hours after the deposit, Chloe transferred $14,800 to her secret account. The description read, baby supplies. Frank got screenshots of everything. The transfer, the balance in her secret account, now over $60,000. The timestamp. We had proof of her systematic theft, captured in real time, with Mark's testimony that he never authorized the transfer.
It was perfect.
She had caught herself in our trap. I asked Chloe to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. She arrived 15 minutes late, her fake pregnancy belly prominent under a designer maternity dress. "What do you want?" she asked, not sitting down. I gestured to the folder on the table between us. "I want you to look at this. Then I want you to make a choice." She sat reluctantly. I opened the folder. First, the recording transcript of her vile rant about Thomas. Then the screenshots from Securing Your Assets forum. Then the bank records showing her secret transfers. Then Frank's photos of her meeting with a real estate agent. Then the receipt for the fake pregnancy belly. Then the draft prenup she had hidden from Mark. Finally, the evidence of her transferring the bonus money just 2 days ago. I watched the color drain from her face as she realized what she was looking at. "Where did you get these?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is what happens next. You have 2 choices." "I'm not going to prison," she said immediately. "That depends on you. Choice 1. We proceed with the lawsuits. Everything I have goes to the police and becomes public record. Your fraud, your elder abuse, your theft. You'll face criminal charges along with the civil suits." She was shaking now. "Or choice 2. You sign a post-nuptial agreement. My lawyer has already drawn it up. In the event of divorce, which will happen immediately after you sign, you waive all rights to the house, all claims to alimony, all access to Mark's accounts or future earnings. You return every penny you've stolen from both of us. In exchange, we don't press criminal charges. That's not fair. I'd leave with nothing. You'll leave with your freedom. That's more than you deserve." She stared at the folder, her hands trembling. "I need to talk to a lawyer." "You have 48 hours. Chloe's lawyer was a sharp woman in an expensive suit. She spent 3 hours reviewing everything I had presented. When she finished, she called Chloe into a private conference room. I waited outside with Patricia and Mark. Through the closed door, I could hear raised voices.
Chloe was arguing.
Her lawyer was not. When they emerged, Chloe looked like she had been crying. Her lawyer addressed Patricia directly. "My client will sign the post-nuptial agreement. However, we request modifications to the repayment terms." Patricia shook her head. "The terms are non-negotiable. Full repayment within 30 days, or we file criminal charges. My client doesn't have access to those funds immediately." Then she should have thought about that before stealing them. "We have evidence of over $60,000 in her private account. We're being generous by not demanding interest and penalties." The lawyer looked at Chloe, who was staring at the floor. "We'll sign." The post-nuptial agreement was brutal. In exchange for us not pursuing criminal charges, Chloe would give up all claims to the house, all rights to spousal support, and all access to any assets acquired during the marriage. She would return every penny stolen from both Mark and me. The divorce would be filed immediately, uncontested. She would have 30 days to vacate the property. Chloe signed with a trembling hand, tears running down her face and smudging her makeup. Justice had never felt so satisfying. The signatures were notarized at 4 p.m. on a Thursday. By 5 p.m., Patricia had filed the divorce papers. By 6 p.m., Chloe was packing her belongings under Mark's watchful supervision. I stayed at the motel, not ready to return yet. Mark called me that evening.
"She's gone."
She took her clothes and personal items. Left everything else. "How are you holding up?" A long pause. "I don't know." Relieved? Ashamed? Angry? All of it. "You did the right thing in the end." "I should have done it sooner. I should have protected you from the start. You were being manipulated by someone who's clearly very practiced at it." "That doesn't make it better, Mom. I chose her over you. I locked my own mother out of her house." His voice broke, and I heard him crying. "Mark, what matters now is moving forward. We'll fix this together." The legal machinery moved quickly. Within a week, Chloe's bank accounts were frozen pending repayment. The court ordered her to return all funds within 30 days or face prosecution. Gerald Vance, the real estate agent, was questioned about his involvement and quickly distanced himself from the entire situation. News spread through our family. My sisters called, horrified when they learned the truth. Friends reached out. Even Chloe's own family contacted me to apologize, claiming they had no idea about her behavior. The woman who had tried to steal everything from me had lost everything herself. Chloe's Facebook posts disappeared overnight. Her accounts went private. But the damage to her reputation was permanent. Ashley, the woman who had first contacted me, made a public post in the Securing Your Assets forum, exposing Chloe's fraud and warning others. The moderators banned Chloe and shut down several similar schemes being discussed. My sisters Helen and Dana drove down the weekend after the divorce was filed. They found me at the motel and broke down crying. "We had no idea," Helen sobbed. "She told us you had moved to a retirement community, that you were happy, that the house renovations were your idea." "She's a very convincing liar," I said. Dana hugged me tightly. "We should have called you. Should have checked on you directly. We just believed her. She's very good at what she does." Chloe's own parents called me, their voices heavy with shame. "We raised her better than this," her mother said. "We had no idea she was capable of such cruelty." Within 2 weeks, Chloe had packed her car and left town. Nobody knew where she went. The court-ordered repayment began arriving in installments. She was selling everything she had to meet the deadline. Mark changed all the locks immediately. 3 weeks after Chloe signed the postnup, Mark called me. "Mom, can you come home?" I drove to the house slowly, my heart pounding. When I pulled up, Mark was standing on the porch, holding a new set of keys. We stood together in the doorway for a long moment. "I'm so sorry," he said again. "I know you are." We walked through the house together. It was strange seeing the changes Chloe had made. The gray walls, the modern furniture, the emptiness where family photos used to hang. But it was still my house. Still the place where Thomas and I had built our life. Still home. "We'll change it back," Mark said quietly. "We'll repaint. Find your furniture. Make it feel like home again. We don't have to change everything. Some things can stay different." We sat in the living room, on Chloe's uncomfortable modern couch, and talked for hours. About Thomas. About the warning signs Mark had missed. About how he had been manipulated. About healing. About forgiveness. "I'm going to therapy," Mark told me. "I need to understand how I let this happen." "That's good. That's really good." The road ahead would be long. But sitting there with my son in our house, I felt hope for the first time in months. 1 year later, the house was transformed again. Not back to exactly how it was, but into something new. Mark and I had painted together, choosing colors we both liked. We found some of my old furniture through Mrs. Gable's detective work and bought new pieces together for the rest. Family photos were back on the mantle, including a new one of Mark and me at his therapy graduation ceremony. I had refinanced the house and used money from Benjamin's consulting job to pay off Mark's portion. The deed was now solely in my name, with provisions in my will to protect it properly for Mark's inheritance. He had supported this completely, even insisted on it. "I need to earn my way back," he had said. "Not just inherit what I nearly destroyed." The consulting work had led to a permanent position managing medical facility developments across the state. The pay was excellent, and the work was fulfilling. But my proudest achievement was the foundation I established using a portion of my settlement money, the Thomas Henderson Fund for Elder Financial Abuse Prevention. We provided free legal assistance to elderly victims of family financial exploitation, along with educational programs about protecting assets. I sat on my porch that evening, Thomas's watch on my wrist, a cup of tea in my hand. Mrs. Gable waved from across the street. My sisters were coming for dinner tomorrow. Mark was inside, preparing his famous lasagna. My life had been torn apart, but I had rebuilt it stronger than before. I had protected Thomas's legacy and found new purpose in helping others. The cycle of manipulation and abuse had been broken. And sitting there, watching the sunset over the neighborhood I had called home for 30 years, I was finally at peace.